We are continuing our Lessons from Leaders series this afternoon down in beautiful New Ulm, Minnesota, on the campus of Martin Luther College. Excited to be with Mark Stein this afternoon. Appreciate his willingness to join us. Mark led the Knights to the 2018 conference champion title for football. It was undefeated, perfect 8-0 season for Martin Luther, and actually set a new program record as well for wins in a season, 9 wins overall. So really excited that Mark can be with us today. Jump right in with a question. Football coaches, head coaches, you oversee a lot. You've got coordinators, different position coaches. You're doing a lot of practice planning, game planning, travel logistics. It's a long list. So for you, from a leadership standpoint, what are the most critical decisions that you have to make in a season or in a week as you lead your program?
Well, thanks for doing this, Carter. I really appreciate it. It's a great venture. I've seen some of them already, and it seems like they're really well done, and you learn a lot from people outside of our school about what leadership is. And to answer your question, I would say that we have 3 goals that we've put together as a program since the day I took over, and those 3 goals are serve, trust, and win. And when you're making daily decisions, or when you're making season decisions or off-season decisions, we as a program look at those 3 goals of serve, trust, and win, and make the decision accordingly. So for us, service is a selfless type of dedication to the team, to the school, to what you're learning to do. Serving each other out of Christian love is something that we talk about all the time. And I know it seems like a weird football thing, but if you can't be selfless and a servant in team sports, you're going to struggle. The trust is easy because you have to trust your brothers. We have built that over, I think, 4 years with our work in the off season and in spring football, and growing as a group. I think it was really important for us as a program to go through the struggles early, so we could trust each other. And then winning it seems like a tough thing to talk about, but honestly, for us, winning is winning every day, whether you're having a good day or not. Whether you're having a good week or not, you need to win that day, not as a football player, but as a student, as an athlete, as a Christian, because other people are counting on you. So that's what we talk about with winning. And so for us, that's what our decisions are made on. It's interesting too, because that all feeds into a successful football program, but those are life skills that we want the guys to go leave here and in their ministries use that for their program, for their church, for their school.
Sure, absolutely. You talked about kind of the foundation of your program, or your kind of core elements. Now that those are in place, and as you've looked back a little bit, what stands out to you in terms of something that you're most proud of? In terms of accomplishments that you feel really good about, what stands out to your success to this point with the football program?
The one thing that I learned pretty early is that it's not about me. So, and that was something that is not easy for a young man to figure out. So, for accomplishments, I think probably the biggest thing that's been a blessing to me is having mentors throughout my entire career. It goes all the way back to when I was coaching in the grade schools. I had guys like Mr. Radu and Mr. Schneider that were grade school guys that just taught me the basics of coaching and encouraged me and that I was doing a good job. And then I have lifelong friends in Joel Radu, Paul Strutz, Kirk Denoyer that have been great mentors for me about system and program and that kind of thing. Dale Waltz at Wisconsin Lutheran High School was the same kind of guy. And then, for me, those mentors even continue here with our president, Zarling. He's a true servant leader, and that is something that has really kind of pushed me from going from a guy right out of college that thought he knew everything and would tear the world up, to really being broken down and saying, you don't really know what you're doing, you should probably get good people around you and learn from them. And that still continues to this day. My coaching staff is tremendous that way. They all have their strengths, and being surrounded by and learning from great people, I think, is probably the thing that I've picked up the most, is my greatest accomplishment.
Sure. Switching gears a little bit, often you'll hear, leaders or successful people have maybe some type of special sauce, as sometimes coined or termed. For you, what stands out to you as maybe your special sauce, or that difference maker for you? Maybe some people it's a habit or it's an organizational approach, but what comes to mind for you that gives you something special in terms of, has helped with your leadership that extra little bit?
Obviously our Christian faith is a huge part of what we do here, so that goes without saying, but that then leads into our faith and leads into a whole bunch of different things that are special sauce, if you will. and I really feel like those things have kind of come from the previous question, from my mentors. Sure. and from those guys that we've learned about. I guess surrounding yourself with people that really understand where you're coming from, and that you're going to, I learned this early at a coaching clinic, and it was something that stuck with me, is to make the big time where you're at. Yeah. Not for you, but for the kids. And that making the big time where you're at, showing the passion and the enthusiasm, whether it's at a small school in Freedom, Wisconsin, where I started, of 100 kids, or at a big high school, or at a Division III college. You have to make the big time where you're at, because that passion, that energy is going to feed into the kids, and that's exactly what happens. That's exactly what I've learned, and we've kind of built that here. And my coaching staff, again, can't say enough about them, and how they feed into that, because we have a wide range of coaches, from guys in their 70s to guys in their 20s, and it's pretty fun to watch them learn that, read that, breathe that, and live it. And hopefully our kids then take that to their programs, and they build that into their programs and their coaches and teachers and pastors.
Sure. I think in Division III, the role of coaches is always evolving and changing. There's probably days and moments where it's more of a mentor, it's more of a teacher, sometimes it's a friend, sometimes it's, having to be harder with your student athletes. What do you foresee in terms of challenges to come, maybe some of those roadblocks that you'll have to jump over, that would otherwise hinder continued success and continued development, maybe personally as a leader or your program as well, but zero in on some of those challenges that you see down the road?
Well, I worry about my kids all the time, whether it's my personal kids, who are in their 20s now, or my kids on the team who, are out on their own for the first time. And there's a lot of things that have changed in our lifetime, from the time we were in college to the time now. And probably the biggest thing is technology. Sure. As much as I love Huddle and all of the things that go with Huddle, and the easy approach that Huddle gives us when it comes to breaking down film and that, the kids can take that same kind of technology and do something wrong with it, or be someplace wrong with it. Sure. And from social media, and from our kids now, that's a totally different paradigm than we grew up with. So I worry about that. I think that's going to be a struggle for us. And the more we can educate our kids that stuff is good, controlled, is I think probably the biggest challenge we'll have right now. Outside of that, just the challenges of daily life. Our kids are going to be exposed to more and more things, not just on their phones or on their computers, but the world is changing around us pretty quick, and that's where your faith and your Christian life and being in the Word is going to carry you, I think, through those tough times, because I'm glad I don't have to go back to being 22, 23 years old. that was fun, but I don't want to have to do it again because there's a lot of new things that they have to deal with that are different than what we have to.
Sure, sure. Going back, you inherited a football program in terms of roster size and just defining success as far as wins. Was struggling a little bit more. Certainly made progress in the 5 years. I guess this is your 5th season that you're leading the program. Is there a particular moment that stands out or is more special than others as you look back from conference championship now, first appearance in an NCAA tournament, NCAA championship game for the program? A particular moment that stands out as special for you in this journey of taking the football program where you have?
Yeah, there's a couple actually that jump into my mind. The very first one, and I've told this story many times, probably told it to you already, but I'll never forget when we were 0-10, and this year's senior class was that we're freshmen, and those guys had, a lot of them had to play because of our numbers situation, and it was interesting to me because we were, I believe, 0-7, and we went into week 8's practice, and one of my coaches, who is our strength coordinator now, Steve Pearson, he came up to me during that week on week 8, and he says, "Coach, look at these guys." And I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" He goes, "Look at how hard they're working. Look at how much fun they're having." And I took special note of that because our best practices that season were week 8, 9, and 10. And that's not easy. That's a special group, and they've been through, the bottom of the barrel, if you will, and they've bought in and jumped into the off-season program and jumped into what we're telling them and bought it and sold it now to the young kids. And that's the first one. I will miss those guys sorely when they graduate this year.
Sure.
Then probably after that, winning the conference championship this last year, being able to hold the trophy with my son was kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
Because I've been able to coach for a long time, but I really haven't been able to coach my kids. And last year was the first year that I really had them as a head coach in charge of a program. I'd been involved with summer league stuff, and that was pretty neat. But then him being able to share that, and me being able to share that with the whole family of football was really a neat deal, because those guys had worked from where they were at 0-10 to a conference championship and never wavered.
Sure.
They just stayed with it, and they're going to be great coaches and great leaders someday, which
Sure.
is really cool.
Yes. Often when we talk about leadership or successful leadership, we talk about learning, evolving, changing and understanding things better down the road. As you look back, you've coached for 2 decades, different levels, different settings, but as you look back now, 2 decades later, what would you tell the Mark Stein coach from 20 years ago from a advice or counsel standpoint that maybe by experience you learned, or going through the fires that you have, the wisdom that you could share with that younger Mark Stein coach?
Well, like I said before, there's a lot to learn. It's funny because when I think about it now, I still feel like there's a lot to learn.
Sure.
And that's totally opposite of the way I was at 22 years old.
Sure.
And I guess I would also tell that person that young Mark, to be very thankful for the people, the blessings that God's put in your life. Those people I mentioned before, I think that's something that I know I took for granted when I was younger. Started to get a little bit through those middle years.
Sure.
But that was a big deal. And then probably the thing that has changed this program as much as any is surround yourself with great people. And if I could tell a young coach that, again, it's not about you. Majority of what happens in the program is other people and how you can motivate them, and how you can guide them, whether they're older or younger, and then listen to them at the same time, because learning is not, it's part of being a great coach, because as soon as you're stagnant, you should probably get out. quite honestly. So those are the things that I've learned over my career, and you know, trying to balance that with family is difficult. I would really caution the young coach to be careful with how you're going to deal with your family and the time you're going to put into work and coaching and family. But the good Lord's all got that under control, and He's really guided my family and my coaching staff through that. So it's been fun to be a part of, and it's been fun to grow, you know, because I think, like I said, learning new things almost every day from my kids and my coaches and other coaches has been a real privilege.
Sure. Well, thank you. Good words of wisdom from Mark, and appreciate again your time today. The Martin Luther College Knights will look to defend their conference title this season, try to make it 2 years in a row, and a second straight appearance in the NCAA championship. Mark is the two-time UMAC Coach of the Year, and certainly will look to continue that success in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks.